Look, this next team, I don't know if you noticed that or know that you're talking to apparently one of the foremost jokes in Minnesota Timberwolves circles, per my Twitter mentions.
No,
Yeah,
nice.
that's me, apparently.
Well done.
Because I think the Pelicans and Clippers are more likely to make the playoffs next year than the Timberwolves. So that means that I don't do my job or my research. What's your biggest question for the Minnesota Timberwolves, though, heading into the offseason?
So the big kind of overarching question is what's next? Because the last time they were in this position, they kind of fumbled it and it didn't go great. Now I realize Jimmy Butler basically lit everything on fire and then, ran out of the building screaming. Like I get that. But it's you got to get this right from a personnel standpoint. People are going way too far. That I've seen some of the like, see, Cat's not a winner. Like you got to think about that's ridiculous. Like stop. Like
He's
that's
a
just
top 15, top 20
yeah,
players. Like it's just let's
exactly.
move on. He's
Yeah.
ridiculously good.
Did he have kind of a bad series at times? Yes. Was his final game not good? 100%. Like that
There's
35-foot 3-pointer he took early in the clock late, that was just dumb. But that's part of the process is figuring that stuff out as you get to that stage. They have a D'Angelo Russell problem. You can't have a $30 million player on your bench in the fourth quarter.
Mhm.
That's just it doesn't work. So you got to figure out something with that spot. I'm not a Malik Beasley guy. I could not be more of an Anthony Edwards guy. I think he is fantastic. I love a lot of their role players. I thought they missed an opportunity. I want it was it game 2 maybe that they lost. It didn't play Jordan McLaughlin at all. Like that can't happen. You
He
got
was
to have
tough.
that guy
Yeah.
needs to be out there. So I really like him. I really like Jared Vanderbilt. I love McDaniels. I think he's is going to be really something there. So I like a lot of their pieces. Patrick Beverly, it's I there's just too much Patrick Beverly sometimes in games, I
Yeah,
guess.
like tweeting at home on the couch while watching the playoffs that are being eliminated that they didn't give up 47 to Ja was
Yeah,
certainly
that
a
was
point.
exactly. Yeah, the comment I made on the live show was, "Well, you tweeted this from the couch, dude." And you're, and if I remember, you may not have given up 47, but it's not like John Morant didn't have some huge games in that series too. Um, but I like him. Like I think he's good. I think clearly he was great for them as
Mhm.
a tone setter, especially defensively, and somebody who I think it was good to have somebody to come in and challenge the younger guys and say like, "Hey, you need to do this, you need to do that," because I think there was just too much comfort level with that. But that's I guess I don't have any one big question other than what do you do with D'Angelo Russell? If you do move him, where does that leave you with Cat? Because we know that they're super close.
Yeah.
Like, but you at some point, I mean, you can be friends. I mean, LeBron's buddies up until later born on all of his teams, and like they were all buddies and doing their things like and stuff. So yeah, I just you got to get that sorted and figure that out.
And I thought, by the way, I'm in love with Jaden McDaniels as well.
He's great.
I'm with you. D'Angelo Russell was better than he probably got credit for during the regular season. The issue is, as you mentioned, being on the bench in the fourth quarter at a pivotal moment in the playoffs. Other than that, it's just can you have $31+ million funneled into such a high variance player, whether it's the regular season or the playoffs? And the answer is no.
No,
Uh, you can't. And especially when maybe if he was sort of more of a lifeline for you offensively, and I get that he gets them into he's like a connective tissue a lot of the times for them on offense. But you have Anthony Edwards now, who's just that he's going to contend for like best player in the NBA at some point in his career, or be
yeah,
pretty close to that tier. And so put the ball in his hands more. And I'm also more of an advocate of just I know there's Cat's decision making out of double teams could be wonky, but part of the reasons why it feels like he disappears or makes some poor decisions at times is that the offense isn't necessarily run through him as
no,
much as it should be.
I
And
agree.
that's the inherent risk of having what your best player, or if you think Anthony Edwards has usurped him, I would push back against that. But having your best or second best player not be such a central focus of starting offensive plays. Like, yeah, he could finish them, but when you're more of a play finisher, you only have so much influence over what's
Yep.
happening. I just don't know what you're able, like, they could make an interesting package, but to me, the D'Angelo Russell, him being an expiring contract and a useful player, that does help you if you pair him with the word of this podcast stuff. But you get into the realm of like, do you want like who are you getting? And do you want to give up Jaden McDaniels in addition to picks to get said player? I look at this team and still think probably their biggest need is like maybe a cleaner fit at the four, just because Jared Vanderbilt can compromise your spacing a little bit. Do you want to play McDaniels at the four a ton? they're a good Jeremy Grant destination, I guess. Is that also how we're back to this question with Jeremy Grant extension looming, knowing the player he is? Like, is that someone who can be considered your all in play? And that was sort of my question, is whether they have the asset equity and the urgency slash impetus to be like not just super aggressive, but make that all in play on the trade market, assuming the opportunity even presents itself, or are they better off trying to do something in between where it's depending on what Sacramento does, Harrison Barnes would be great for this team as well. So I have so many questions for a roster that seems like it's so close on the cusp of something. Like if you have Karl-Anthony Towns and Anthony Edwards, like there's an element of, wow, okay, you're so damn close. And it's like, but the finishing touches still feel like they're further away and that the roster could stand to get deeper and that some of the lineup combinations need to be ironed out a bit. And I would cite, I call it the four, but I'm not a big fan of positions, but like that front court spot alongside Karl-Anthony Towns feels like that might have the potential for the most growth, unless you think it's, maybe the three spot, but like that 3-4 spot would be an area of the biggest need for me.
Yeah, I think your point of, do you make it an all-in trade? And if you do, you better make the right one, because you're just you run the risk of painting yourself into too much of a corner roster wise and flexibility wise. You could end up in a really bad spot, and that's where I think you've got to be really careful with the way you do this. And the best value in the NBA remains really great players on rookie scale deals, even when it's Anthony Edwards and it's one of the higher ones, but that only lasts for 4 seasons. So you got to get it right, before that's up, because then after that, he's going to be a max guy, potentially even a super max guy, pending, where his career goes. I think there's a very good chance that's where that turns into. And then Towns at the same time is going to be up for his next contract. And that's where you're running into, you got to get these next moves right, wherever it is. And I'm with you. I think there's 2 big needs here. One is a more traditional point guard that can just get you into your stuff. And maybe that's the guy who can tell Cat, no more drifting out here. Don't set the screen and then slowly meander off to the weak side corner like he tends to do in those kind of things. No, set the screen, roll hard, or get your butt in the post. Like, I'm going to get you the ball. We'll get that worked out. Challenge is, Chris Paul exists one place, and that's Phoenix. So, who else, right? Who else can be that guy? Because it's not Patrick Beverley. He can say those things, but he's not going to be the one who delivers the ball and gets it there. I do wonder, as odd as it sounds, because he was a former Wolf, but like, is there a play to be made to get a guy like Tyus Jones back and say, you know what, we can give him a bigger role, let him do it. Now, he's not necessarily that veteran voice, but just a steady hand who can run your stuff, get your guys where they need to be, and do those kind of things. But it's guys like that. That's where I'd be looking. And I'm with you. I'd like to see them get just a different kind of 4 out there. Maybe somebody who can provide some weak side shot blocking alongside Towns or something like that. Somebody who can just kind of help him out and not leave it to like, hey, you got to do the rim protection and all this other stuff. And then that would allow Vanderbilt to go into like that kind of super sub big role where it's like, just come in and play with a crap ton of energy, run all over the place and make stuff happen. Those are arguably my favorite kind of players in the league. Like, I love guys like that, because there's always a place for them on really good teams. I just think right now you're a little overextended with Vanderbilt, despite the fact that I really, really like his game. So yeah, those would be the 2 roster things I was looking at. But that point guard, that's the tricky part. And maybe that's where the Russell trade comes up, is, getting that guy that can tell Towns like, all right, man, hey, we got to do this. And also, just as importantly, say, hey, we're going to run through Ant right now, right? He's going to be the guy. We're going to run, the next 10 minutes or tonight or this series, whatever it is. Like, he's going to be the guy. You're still going to get touches and be involved. And I don't think Cat is the kind of guy who's going to bristle at that. I think he'd be okay. I think he seems like the kind of guy who's like, are we going to win? Great, cool, I'm good. Let's go. I don't think he's the kind of, he's got to be involved. Like, he's not going to be content to just be out there. But yeah, that's what I'm looking for, is who's that next guy to say go, because right now I think it's too many guys who all defer to each other. Like, it's a whole bunch of like, no, you go. It's like coming to a 4-way stop. And everybody's like, you go. And then you're just kind of passing it around the 4-way stop and nobody actually goes. It's like, all right, somebody has to take control here. That's the way it should be.
I'm also wondering if they have the potential to make like the offbeat move of the offseason. Just when you look at the names they've been linked to over the past year, like they were linked to loosely Miles Turner, John Collins when he was headed into restricted free agency. And I'm guessing that Towns gives you a lot of flexibility up front, but it also seems like their defensive rebounding is it's an issue and it's something that they're going to need to address. But they also seem to be very confident in the way that Chris Finch is going to coach their defense and how aggressive they are, the number of turnovers they're going to force. That maybe they're more inclined than the numbers would suggest because they had the best offense in the league over like the past half of the season to go after, to not lean in more into offense, but to maybe take a bigger risk where it's, oh, this feels like more of an offense first move or a way to change up the offense more so than it does to solidify some of the holes or flaws that you have on defense. I actually kind of respect that belief. I don't know if it works. We'd have to see, but it does seem like they're open to sort of whatever, just judging off of who and what they've been linked to, even loosely in the past.
I think sometimes there in the NBA, there is too much of a rush to change the other side of the ball from what makes you special. And I just wrote about this with the New York Knicks. They were so good defensively, but what they did was we have to upgrade our offense. And by picking Evan Fournier and Kemba Walker, who are not good defenders, you didn't upgrade your offense enough to offset that slippage that you were no longer a super special defense. And that's where I'm kind of with you, where sometimes I think we still, no matter, I mean, it's going to be 2040 and people assume that defense wins championships, right? And it's like, there's truth to it, sure. But like, who are the guys who make this Wolves defense really, really good that they could get? They may not exist. So yeah, why not go lean more towards your offense? Like, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, if you become such an unstoppable scoring team, it can be really hard then. It almost doesn't matter where your defense is, as long as it's okay enough, as long as it's 15 to 20 and not 25 to 30, you can be fine as long as you're, top 1, 2, 3 defense or offense rather. So yeah, I just, sometimes I feel like teams get too stuck on, we have to find this great balance when that great balance doesn't always exist. And I know all the stats say you could have a top 10 defense and offense if you want to win a championship and all that stuff. I get all that, but it's, only one team's going to win the title. For me, it's put yourself in position and maybe be that team, and things break right. It's not the end of the world.